You're the umbrella group of many of the groups that are protesting. Talk about the scope of the people's concerns and the scope of the organizations.
Well, we're made up of organizations, labor unions, and individuals who might not be affiliated with any organization who are mobilizing against the G8 and G20. And we've been organizing around specific themes that we've sort of divided up into themed days. So some of the issues that people are concerned with are indigenous sovereignty, anti-poverty, gender justice, migrant issues, and an end to war and occupation. So these are many of the issues that we feel the G8 and G20 have a great deal of influence over. It's a very large and diverse network. Hopefully that will keep going after the G8 and G20 meetings are done. It's been a vibrant network. I should say, though, that we're not organizing any of the actions. We've done call-outs for organizations to take on some of the days, do workshops, do rallies. But the network is doing the Convergence Center. We're providing childcare, doing logistics of the actions.
How many people are involved in these protests?
That's hard to say. I mean, as the days go on, yesterday we saw around 2,200 people in the streets. In the network itself, there's probably around 150 to 200 people involved.
John Clark, what are the actions planned?
We're putting most of our resources into an action today. It's going to be a day to struggle for community justice. We're going to gather in a major downtown park. We're going to march through the streets. We haven't choreographed the route with the cops, so we don't know what to expect in terms of how they're going to respond. And the event will culminate this evening in a tent city. We're going to take over an area. We're going to put up tents. It's going to be a place of solidarity for homeless people, and it's going to be a place to express the anger of all those who are being displaced and victimized by the system and by the agenda of the G20. I think it'll be a very powerful event and a very important one. And as was alluded to, the real question is going to be where it goes from here. We're not just protesting a summit. We're protesting a whole series of attacks. We're protesting a whole economic system. And as such, the struggles that flow out of today are of the greatest importance.
Mm-hmm. The issue of war. Yesterday, as we came into Toronto from Detroit, from covering the U.S. Social Forum, I was seeing a news zipper occasionally would mention the name, I think it was James McNeil, of a soldier who was killed in Afghanistan.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the great ironies of preparing this and working with mainstream media, for example, is that the fixation is this going to be peaceful? Is somebody going to break a window? Is somebody going to scuffle with the cops? Which is such a tiny issue relative to the enormous violence of the agenda that's being prepared here. It's not just about imposing austerity on people. They'll use whatever form of military violence is necessary to ensure that agenda is enforced. And yes, we are confronting something that I think is profoundly dreadful.
One of the people I saw at the U.S. Social Forum in Detroit was Medea Benjamin. Medea Benjamin and one of her co-activists at Code Pink attempted to come into Canada the day before yesterday. Ty Berry and Medea Benjamin. Medea describes what happened.
Yesterday, my colleague Ty Berry from Code Pink and I had an hour and a half free, and we thought, let's go over to Canada and have lunch. We went there and were detained. They searched our car. They held me for questioning for about 4 hours and asked me everything about the social forum and what I was doing and what conferences I was taking part in. They asked if I was coming for the G20 summit. They even asked me who I voted for president. After 4 hours, they allowed me to return to the United States, but my colleague Ty Berry was kept. He was held overnight, and he is still there for a second night in a row. They said that they can hold anybody who has any kind of record, a misdemeanor, a felony, or anything, and they can hold them for as long as they want before they put them before a judge for deportation hearings. And one of the reasons they said they could do this is they said the United States does it all the time. So he has no charges against him, but he is being held now going on for 48 hours.
Now, Now, Medea, I know that both you and Tig have traveled extensively around the world. Has this ever happened to either one of you before?
No, we go everywhere. I mean, we're constantly traveling, and Tig is constantly traveling. He's never had a problem. The issue with Canada is it's the only country that shares the criminal database with the United States. So it has a record of everything that is in the criminal records here in the U.S. computer system. So they can dredge up something from 30 years ago, which they did in the case of Tig, as well as arrests that we've had making anti-war protests in Congress or in front of the White House. And it's very dangerous because this information sharing is starting with Canada and is supposed to then be extended to other countries that the U.S. has special relationships with, like Mexico. So it's important as activists that we really protest this now before we're not allowed to travel very far beyond our borders.
That was Medea Benjamin being interviewed by Mike Burke in Detroit. She and Ty Berry didn't make it into Canada. Ty Berry has been held for more than a day now. This is Democracy Now! We'll be back in a minute. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. We're in Toronto, Canada.